Okay, Patrick. All right. I was reading your writing. First of all, thanks for kicking things off here. I appreciate that. Not always the easiest thing to do, but thank you for taking the plunge, so to speak. All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Good job describing your intent. Let's go ahead and jump right to the piece. I do have several comments, so what I want to do is get this back down into the Okay, now those of you who are following along, Patrick has taken the extra incentive to include the dust flap and the spine. And that's a great choice, Patrick. Fantastic, because it's going to really, it's going to make a much more compelling, it's going to make for a much more compelling project should you elect to put it in your final student portfolio. Now, one thing I would recommend is right now it looks like you've got these little separations. This to me indicates that it's not one file. Now, it should be one file, right? Now, what I would recommend for mocking this up is to decide what size it is. Okay, so the best thing to do to mock it up is this: is find a book with a flap on it, a cover, hardbound book. And then what you would do is you would take that off, and when you print yours out, find out exactly what the size is of the model you're using, and then what you would do is you would adjust your file to be the same size, so that when you print it out, you can fold it and wrap it around the book and photograph it. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so it's a good start, good typography. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for being creative there. I love it. Okay, one thing I would recommend is maybe use a different typeface for the author than the type. You're using this effect a lot. I think we see it here and again over here. I would only use it for the title area because the less impactful it's going to be if you use it in other areas. So I would recommend setting the type differently there. Don't use bold type. Bold type kind of indicates that you're getting yelled at. Another thing that I would do is I would not use the bricks on the inside flaps. I would just use either a color or maybe even just a muted yellow color. Um, and then don't forget, this is just one run-on paragraph. It's daunting. I would give some paragraph breaks there. Typically, the spine faces the other way. It faces this way, so that if the book is, let me see if I have. Whoops, sorry about that. So you have a book, right? Here's my typography book. One of the books I refer to actually quite often. But at any rate, as you can see, the spine is assembled, which I'm not holding this upside down. Sorry about that. The spine is assembled so that if you turn it this way, you can read it this way. And the reason it's the baseline is facing the back of the book. Okay. So, and the reason is that as these all sit on a shelf, they sit consistently so that we can kind of tilt our head there and read all the titles as they sit on a shelf, right? So, wow, I'm making a real mess over here. Sorry about that. At any rate, as far as execution goes, a couple of recommendations here. So these are basic icons, and they're vector, right? So they're created using a pen tool, right? So they're not actual photographs. Now, this being raster image processing class, I think it's a better idea to use photographs. Um, oh, by the way, there's that typeface again. I just use it for the type. I don't even think I would use it over there. I would use a different typeface there. But at any rate, so as far as these images, see if you can find an actual images of these instead of these vector icons. This, anchor, house, heart, brain, and the high heel slipper, right? So basically what you're doing is you're using raster effects on a raster file instead of using vector effects on a raster file, right? So, and again, the name of the class is raster image processing. So we want to concentrate on raster images as opposed to vector graphics. So in that regard, my recommendation at this point is to use actual photographs. And you can even kind of composite these together somehow and create really interesting effects. But remember, it's raster images. I think you're going to get a much more compelling results with raster images because you'll be able to use all the associated effects, right? Blending modes, etc. So that said, I'd like to see those changes reflected in your final submission. So, or not your final submission, but in your as you work towards your final submission. Okay, so at this point, of course, I want to say if you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to make any necessary clarifications. Thank you very much.